Well, not this unit specifically, but rather what he represents as he runs off camera there. Gaston, aka the Huntsman General, is of course the General of the Huntsmen, and the Huntsmen in general are the unit which is going to make Ogres have a really bad day. I mean, it's very apparent. Anyone who knows the Empire knows about this unit. Anti-large archer with a relatively low missile damage, kind of. I mean, 4 AP is definitely pretty solid. 160 range, Vanguard deployment stock, so some good stuff, but absolutely the +8 bonus versus large makes their missile DPS against large targets quite good. But let's go ahead and take a look at the builds here as the action is just about to get started. I've got the Huntsman General, who also has anti-large on his bow. Got a couple of war wagons since they came in the same DLC, and actually as a distraction piece, that 90 armor, used to be 80, I think, actually. 90 armor is very good for helping to kind of block Ogre Bulls. The mass also will be nice. Front line of Spearmen, of course. We've got a great cannon as well to provide some DPS hidden here in the woods. A couple of Empire Knights supported by a Warrior Priest for some heavy punch. Very important. We've got the Banner of Eternal Flame, some additional non-armor piercing weapon strength. You can see it's only extra 2 weapon strength, but definitely helps. Certainly when Kindle Flame is applied from this Lord Firecaster with Fireball and Cascading Fire Cloak, it will help. For my opponent's build here, he's got a Slaughtermaster of Beasts, some Man-Eaters with great weapons, Man-Eaters with Iron Fists. On that flank over here, it's Bulls mostly. Bulls, some more Bulls with Iron Fists mixed with dual weapons, some regular Bulls. So all the absolute Bull. And the Iron Fists as well of the Man-Eaters, and then the 2 great weapons. So yeah, 3 Man-Eaters total. Slaughtermaster of Beasts, I believe. Yes, for Manticore summons for some extra terror. So we'll get things underway on the high ground. Going to be doing a little bit of skirmishing while the Huntsmen focus. And even with the Iron Fists, man, it does not really help much as those Bulls get absolutely torn to shreds. But I mean, this is a huge amount of Ogre mass to try and deal with, and they are rushing in, plowing into the Empire State troops here, just smashing and bashing and, having a grand old feast. The Hail of Fire here going to be used. Wow, I didn't notice that actually has a new effect. That looks pretty nice. And along with the Lore of Fire spell to give a Kindle Flame. A little bit late on that, but still, we'll give that extra little reload skill and spike. Give that Cascading Fire Cloak, the buffs from the Warrior Priest to try and beat down the Ogre Bulls there in the distance, but definitely things are getting a little bit messy on the hill here. The Huntsman will help defend with the Spearmen and everything. The General also providing some nice fire. I'm trying to focus as efficiently as I can with my Huntsman, giving all attack orders on the same target. But the Saber-Tusk packs exploding the great cannons with their paws. Probably an uncomfortable situation there, but yeah, the Iron Fists also plowing through. So on the low ground, we just got absolutely mopped. A couple of Huntsmen and Spearmen already going down, or at least 1 Huntsman there. But we have also been able to decisively break. Like, the 2 units that I focus fired are actually legit shattered. And this 1 Man-Eater's great weapons doesn't have any missile block chance, so we can start to focus fire there, do some serious damage. The Slaughtermaster also gets a little bit over-aggressive and is getting absolutely peppered by the war wagons. I didn't realize, actually. I didn't tell them to focus fire on him, but that's great. Unintentionally great micro there. And that is going to lead to him starting to lose out on a little bit of leadership, but this huge mass of Ogres down here on the low ground is still super scary to deal with. Starting to get some units coming back over here as well. These Bulls, the Knights were trading well against them, but things are starting to turn around a little bit there. These Knights are going to bravely try and lance a charge in here onto the Man-Eater's great weapons. Should be a fairly bloody engagement for both sides, but with the Warrior Priest supporting and more Huntsmen, the War Wagons also getting some nice damage in with their ranged attacks. Yeah, those Man-Eaters are not long for this world. They're decent leaderships. They will hold out for some time. Allow their brother Iron Fist to get into combat, and looks like they actually don't break there. Instead, the Empire Knights are pushed back pretty decisively and lose a number of their models in the process. But man, look at these Huntsmen just point blank popping shots, loosing arrows straight into the eyes of the Ogres. Talk about hold your fire till you see the whites of their eyes. Pretty crazy stuff. Another Hail of Fire there. Reload skill and flaming attacks on everything. It even does give flaming attacks in melee, so as we loose this fireball now, again, timing's not perfect, but there you go. The item from the Huntsman also coming into play here. Glittering Scales does debuff the melee attack ever so slightly of those Ogres, which is definitely helping prevent some hits. But a lot of my routing units are coming back at this point. Some are getting chased off by that Saber Tusk pack, which is definitely not ideal. But the Slaughtermaster is here kind of isolated up on the high ground. He's going to pull in a Manticore to try and save his own bacon. Meanwhile, the Knights get into combat here. The Warrior Priest is really the one that I want fighting the Slaughtermaster, probably. But the Knights are just kind of getting in the way at the moment, so we're going to charge them out. Manticore goes after the Huntsman General, so perfect time for the Knights to try and bail him out as the Man-Eaters still try and slog it up the hill. There's just a handful of Huntsmen and Spears defending here. In fact, I don't think there's even any Spears left. Yeah, they're all running for the hills. Maybe a couple trying to push up from the low ground, but there you go. The War Wagon's also standing secure. One of them lost one of its unit models, but one of the benefits of War Wagons over something like Outriders or Pistoliers, they are much tankier, so you don't have to allocate quite as much micro and attention in order to keep them alive. You can kind of misuse them, which makes them perfect for a subpar player like me. Anyways, Flaming Sword of Ruin here, Shield of Faith, Grand Hammer of Sigmar, or Cascading Fire Cloak, rather. Juice up all these units, get that Kindle Flame. The Warrior Priest also conferring the base fire damage there. And yeah, just overall, those juiced stats, 51, 55 for attack and defense on those Empire Knights with all that stuff popping off at the same time. So pretty impressive stuff, honestly. Yeah, those multi-buffs for Empire, juicing up their troops to trade more effectively, is definitely a key component of their gameplay. But finally, this death blob of Ogres gets broken up. Fireball lands on the Slaughtermaster, debuff his healing rate in case he does try and heal again. Of course, again, everything with flaming attacks in general is just going to nerf the healing rate of Ogres, which is another key component of their gameplay, absolutely. So this kind of fire-centric anti-large build, although Marcus is definitely the more competitive choice with his nets, always going to be just straight up better than some fun fire reload buff, but this definitely seems okay. I mean, it's a build, a similar type of build, I should say, that I would use against something like the Tomb Kings, some other factions, and yeah, I mean, the combination of the Huntsman and the Spearman just makes Ogres so miserable. I've tried this matchup quite a few times from both sides, and it's very hard against the Ogres, which, as an Empire player, makes me happy, but it is a little bit tricky from the Ogre side. This is probably one you want to ban if you get the opportunity to in a pick-and-ban situation. War Wagons perform quite well. The Warrior Priests supporting the Empire Knights is just a great classic combination. The Huntsman General also gets some pretty good value himself, and just kind of provides that leadership and stability while also being pretty cheap. He's barely over 1,000 points in his current kit, so even though he doesn't pay for himself on damage output, still is a nice tool to have. The Spearmen, of course, are fantastic here, but it's really all about the Huntsman at the end of the day. For the Ogres here, the Mass Bulls, you know, I kind of like this. Some of the units are going to pay for themselves, some of them are not, just kind of the nature of the rush here. Some units will get focus fired on the approach and not pay for themselves, but others should have an outsized effect. I almost wonder, though, maybe you cut one Bull Iron Fist to take like 3 extra Noblars, and maybe you swap some of these regular Bulls out for more Saber Tusk packs, so you have more true mobility to pressure missile units, and to have kind of that fast attack option, because, I mean, the regular Bulls are going to be better in a sustained combat, but the extra speed of the Saber Tusks, I think you need the flexibility against the Empire. Also, I might consider trying to figure out, maybe you cut one of these Man-Eaters for an actual Ogre cavalry unit, maybe especially one of the anti-large cavalry units to decisively defeat Empire heavy cavalry, and also the extra speed of like Mournfang, great weapons, for example, would help you to catch War Wagons. I don't know, would be a little bit tricky. Probably also require you to switch out for Lore of the Great Maw so you could heal them, but definitely some food for thought, and I'll leave you with that pun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.